Hi, everybody. So I wanted to record this video really quickly just to walk you through a presentation that I created. It's around AI search. So the question I'm getting a lot in the recent times is how to optimize for AI search engines like Perplexity and SearchGPT. So I'm going to try my best to do that on this presentation today. So this is a table of contents. So we're gonna quickly go over firstly just the search market overview. We're gonna be talking a little bit about how AI search is gonna actually look when it's launched, or how Search GPT is gonna look when it gets launched. We're gonna be talking about major ranking factors when it comes to AI search engines. We're gonna be talking about some tactics as well, and then we're gonna finish it off with something called EATs or EEAT. So firstly, just looking at the overall search marketplace. So I'm gonna basically, this chart represents a comparison. So obviously on this side you have AI search, on this side you have traditional search. So I'm gonna go through each one of them and just talk a little bit about what they are, their advantages and their constraints. So starting off with AI search. So when I'm talking about AI search, I'm talking about Perplexity and SearchGPT. And when I'm talking about traditional search, I'm talking about Google, Yahoo, and Bing. So when it comes to overall market share with these different types of search engines. So Perplexity and SearchGPT are getting around maybe 0.5 to 1% of market share. And this is in North America. If you look globally, it's a lot lower than that. And Bing, Yahoo, and Google make up for about 90% of the market share. In North America, probably traditional search probably makes up around 98. But between these three, it's about 90 plus. So that's what it's going on in terms of marketplace. So although it's AI search is growing quite fast, yeah. So although AI search is growing quite fast, it's still a very minuscule amount of searches that are currently taking place as compared to traditional search. So some of the advantages with AI search is that there's no friction to the answer. I think that's probably the biggest drawback with traditional search. There's a lot of friction. So with AI search, all you're really doing is you're putting your question into the UI, and it's spitting out an answer based on a lot of the information that's sort of already out there. So that's probably the biggest advantage when it comes to AI search. Other advantages are that it is the fastest growing product in history. So Search GPT or Chat GPT was the fastest growing, I think, online website or online platform in the history of the universe. So that's a really big advantage. When it comes to traditional search, the advantages are that you get specific answers by experts. So when you become a little bit too nuanced on AI search, it's kind of hard for it to give you the answer. So for example, if I search up, how to create an SEO plan for a company in insurance, it would give out a semi good answer, but if you were to ask me how to do that, you would get a way more specific answer as it applies to you and your field, right? So if you're a bookkeeper and you ask SearchGPT, how to bookkeep for a specific scenario, it will give you good high level information, but it's not really like when it comes to really detailed answers. I think blogs are still way better for that because they tend to be written by experts, and Google is pretty good at ranking the ones that help their audience most on the top spots. Finally, apart from that, AI search is basically copying the traditional search model. They're still looking at the content. So when they're coming up with their answers, and as they're gonna continue to evolve, they're gonna have to put their links, or they already put links to the results that they got answers from. And this is Search GPT and Perplexity. They're kind of using the same systems that traditional search uses, which I'll talk about next, which is still overall quality of content. They use keywords, they use backlinks. So these are all things that are already being adapted by AI search when they're coming up with some of their answers, or at least the in terms of the links that they're going to give you within their platform. That's still based a lot on what traditional search is based on. Some of the constraints when it comes to AI search is that uh, like the big elephant in the room, and I think chat. So I think one of the bigger concerns, the big elephant in the room, is that ChatGPT, although it's the fastest growing product in history, it is losing about $5 billion, while in terms of revenue, it's made about 100 million. I think they recently closed a round of funding, which is gonna probably tide them over for the next maybe couple of years. But if you're keeping up with what's kind of going on in the marketplace, some would say that they were in a little bit of a dire situation. It looks like they've kind of evolved beyond them, but still, like, they've lost $5 billion and $100 million in revenue. So it's an off chance, but there's a chance that ChatGPT doesn't exist in a couple of years. Very unlikely, but it's a possibility. Apart from that, they don't really have an advertising model figured out. And as a result, it's really low penetration. So the only way they can make money is by charging the people who are using their most advanced product. And they have a limit on how much free users can kind of use it. So it's like a freemium model. But yeah, so because they don't have an advertising model, which is basically how Google and yeah, how Google makes all of its money, there's really low penetration and those costs are gonna even go up. So they're gonna go up from like I think it's $20 right now, all the way up to I think 40 or $50 in the near future. So that's gonna lead to even lower penetration, which means that their market share isn't going to grow as fast. So apart from that, there's also what we discussed a little bit earlier, AI hallucinations. Well, we touched upon it, but there are certain questions that you can put into, ChatGPT and other platforms, and they're going to give you really odd answers. Those kinks are going to get worked out. Obviously, this is the very beginning of this journey that all of us are taking into AI, but there's a little bit of concern with the answers that come up. And then lastly, there's potential lawsuits. So these learning models, the answers that they're being given, they're based off of other people's research, other people doing this work. So you can imagine if you're a really big publisher and you're trying to get stories and you're putting a lot of work into your content and then people are just going to AI platforms and getting that answer, it's like they're going to lose out on a lot of revenue if people try to do that. So there's already companies that are blocking these bots from, crawling their websites, and there's potential lawsuits which we're going to see how they kind of develop over time. So, with all that being said, a lot of really good advantages, but there's also a couple of things that are, slowing down this progress. And I think the biggest thing that's really slowing it down is that it's a lot cheaper for Google to give you an answer through their UI, which is basically just links, than it is for AI search. So when like I don't know if this is true or not. Like I know it's true, but like I don't know what magnitude. Some would even say it's 100 times. Yeah, some would say that it's 100 times more expensive for to get an answer from SearchGPT as compared to Google, simply because of the processing power. So when you're putting in an answer into one of these platforms, you're getting a very detailed answer that requires a lot of processing power, as opposed to traditional search, which is kind of just, relying on a couple of handful of metrics, 200 factors, and they're basically looking at, for the most part, keywords and backlinks. And all that they're really displaying for the most part is just links. So that's why it requires a lot less processing power. I don't think it would be possible for Search GPT to kind of absorb even Google's 8.1 billion searches that happen every single day. It would just require too much processing power. I might be wrong about this, but I've heard this said a couple of different times from people that are experts in this field. But yeah, that's another sort of constraint, or the biggest constraint right now. They don't have an advertising model really figured out, which should be simple enough over time. But then the other thing would be just, how much it costs per search, and if they even have capacity to take on all of the searches that are currently happening online. Google alone, which is getting like 8.1 billion a day, which is up from 3.1 billion, I think, a decade ago. So definitely there's a lot of growth on traditional search as well. So we talked about the advantages of traditional search. In terms of constraints, there is a lot of friction. So you have to search, you have to go into Google, you have to make the search, you have to go through the results, and then you pick one based on the metadata that's there or the title tag that's there. And then you have to click through, you have to find the answer. Sometimes you don't get the answer, then you have to go back. Whereas with, AI search, it's all very interactive. So you can really, pare down your answer by quite a degree. So there's a lot of friction when it comes to traditional search. And apart from that, the other constraint is that for some searches, which are general in nature, you don't need an entire article or entire blog or entire page. You just need a quick answer. So general searches are probably going to get lost to AI, whether that's within Google with their own AI results, or whether that's through Perplexity or SearchGPT. But a lot of general queries are going to go away. But 90% of searches are long tail. 10% of searches every year haven't even happened the year before then. So there's still a lot of room for growth, or a lot of opportunity, or a lot of market share left over. So when Search GPT launches, or maybe it's already launched, but this is basically what's going to look like. So you're going to ask your question right here. and obviously this is lower some. It's going to give you a general like answer right here. Then it's going to go into a little bit more detail about the answer. And then it's going to start giving you a lot of references. So this is what I'm talking about. This is like when I was talking about, like the ranking factors haven't really changed. This is what I'm talking about in terms of the references that it's going to provide. So this is going to be very valuable real estate, right? So these are some websites. It's also going to give you some maybe images for results. It's going to give you videos. It's going to be very multimedia as far as I know. And your objective is going to be either to get linked within the answer or be represented in one of these link spots. And how you do that is by a couple of different things. So obviously no one has like officially come out and like cracked the code, but this is what people are saying. I've also personally ranked people number one within AI search engines when it comes to, for example, give me the best restaurant data software. So that's an actual query that my clients are currently ranking number one for. And so I have a bit of experience and I have talked to a lot of people as well and just done my reading, but these are the consistent elements that keep coming up. So firstly, it's relevance, like with any search engine. So it's, are you targeting the correct keyword, phrase, or question on your page? So that's number one, right? So if you don't talk about the thing, you're not going to get a link. You're not going to get one of those. You're not obviously going to appear in one of these links or within the article itself. So obviously it has to be relevant. That's number one. The quality. So are you sharing unique insight, data, first-hand experience from qualified experts? That's going to be important. The authority of the website. And this is more or less just like DR. So like how have you established reputation authority online, which is basically, are you getting links from other reputable websites? So that's going to be really important. For certain results, recency is going to be important. So websites that are keeping their content updated and refreshed, they're more likely to occur within those reference links within SearchGPT or Perplexity. So for example, like when is the US election, right? So websites that are keeping up with that kind of stuff and they're constantly renewing their content, they're more likely to be featured in the link section. And then finally, it's going to be diverse sources. So it's not just going to be blogs, it's going to be images, videos, text links, stuff like that. So it's going to be a mix of different types of places that you can link through and learn more. In terms of tactics that I would recommend is firstly just writing really hyper niche content, like we're talking about the 90% long tail. So really understand what that 90% of long tail looks like. It's usually in the form of customer questions or pain points, and you can do that by studying your competitors, looking at industry blogs. You can also gather a lot of really good ideas just by having meetings with your customer service and sales team on a routine basis. So that's where you're really gonna discover a lot of your hyper niche content as well as just customers that if you're talking to them. Apart from that, just really high quality content, write insightful content, unique angles, data, give good advice. So once again, you can do this by gathering ideas and expert insights from your internal team. Keep it conversational when possible in terms of your tone when you're writing. And then also just remember to include multimedia like videos, charts, images. That's all really going to help. And then finally, building authority. So try to get backlinks from relevant, reputable websites. Try to get on as many, top 10 or best of type articles. And there's a ton of them, right? So some of them are like Capterra and, Clutch. So like some of them are like that where you have to kind of physically go in and get the reviews, write your data. But a lot of them are just blogs that they're getting reference from other blogs. So try to get onto those lists. And it's pretty simple, just writing whatever your product is and then just write best of or top 10 or something like that. And you'll find all of them and then basically just reach out to them and see if you can work out a deal. And then finally just continue getting reviews on prominent review directories. So that's also really going to help. The last thing I want to talk about is EAT. So experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. I'm just going to give you a couple of quick ways that you can build this up. So firstly, just building up an internal member of your team as an industry expert. So when you're publishing blogs or content, so Google and other search engines, including AI, is really going to start looking at that. Just like how backlinks were important at one point, or they still are very important. This is my personal opinion. This is not really something that's been validated, but I feel as if as time goes on, Google and other search engines are going to become smart enough to understand who the industry experts or the influencers within industries are. So if you can attach your website to one of these influencers or build them up as an influencer within your company, I think that's really going to help. And it's as simple as adding author name and bio to your blogs. So maybe create like a people who work for you or experts page where you have people's bios, names, and then, use those bios and names within your article when you're actually writing them. Ideally, it's like a real person, so they have like a social presence as well, where they're sharing this content. That would be really good. So yeah, consistently posting on social media, research articles, write on Quora. This is all really gonna help. Getting into large news websites as an expert using Haro or one of the other tools, that's really gonna help. And then just adding quotes as you're building links. Some of them are gonna be guest posts. So if you're building 10 backlinks and majority of them are guest posts, you can easily just be like, hey, from expert author, this is what they think. So you can actually start quoting your authors that you're mentioning in your blogs within your guest posts as well. So that's going to help you build up a little bit more authority. And then finally, there's just some other things. So revisit existing blogs and add in quotes, stats, internal links to just revamping your blogs. Like I said, recency is a factor with some terms, so you want to keep your content updated. Getting guest posts written by experts with established authorities. So maybe you don't have that person who's an expert in house, or maybe they're not ready. Like you just started this journey. Maybe you want to start tapping other industry experts to start writing on your blog, which is gonna ultimately help your eats. Share your content on social. That should help drive some referral traffic to your website. Include content summaries at the beginning of your article. Get content reviewed and co-written by experts. So once again, just this will add to the depth of the article or the content that you're writing. And then finally, you can add structured data, which is basically just code that you add into your backend that Google can more easily read or search bots can more easily read. So these are all ways to improve your eat. And I think that's pretty much it for this presentation.